Hello.
Hello there.
Oh, we're streaming live on Facebook.
Can you see us live on Facebook?
I won't go there because then latency will start dropping in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I'll stay here in this beautiful place.
Okay. So you've got Mel, and you've got Mel today with a wonderful individual, great friend, generous, brilliant person, and an interesting name.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a moment, but before we do that, we need the jingle. We can't start You've Got Mel without You've Got Mel, right?
Right.
That just wouldn't be, it wouldn't be it. Here we go.
Sweep you off your feet, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell, you got Mel. When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. That's our road, don't you know, you got Mel. Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give it yell, ring a bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give it smell, you got Mel. You got Mel.
And Mel has Premshay.
Hi, it's always good to start a show with a little bit of vaudeville theme.
I think so, I think so.
Yeah.
So, Premshay,
Hi.
usually we begin our show with a very brief description of who you are and why we can't see all of your head.
Okay.
Now we can.
Okay, great. Let's see. Oh, zoom out. Yeah.
Oh, zoom in.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Premshay, and I've been through a long road in my life. So really starting, it depends on where we want to start, right? It depends on what we're going to talk about. But basically, I collect experiences. I think that would be the best way to describe it right now. And depending on what we are going to talk about, we'll see where it goes and what type of history I have is relevant.
Okay, so let's start with the Beatles.
Let's start with the Beatles.
I always start with the Beatles.
Yeah, so one of the first films I ever watched was Yellow Submarine. And it was, of course, for me, of course, it was a main way for me to learn English, one of the first and the main attractions. My kids already saw it a bunch of times. And, you know, I think it's one of the best films ever made. Certainly best animated films, certainly best psychedelic animated films. And surprisingly, it had nothing to do with the Beatles. So that was also interesting to know.
Actually, the voices weren't even the Beatles. They were actors.
No, the voices weren't the Beatles. The studio wasn't. The only part was at the end. It's not a spoiler, so if you haven't seen it, it's fine. But at the end, you see the Beatles, the real Beatles, for like about 30 seconds. And they actually added that long after the film was finished and before it was published. And the studio wanted to show it to the Beatles, which were not involved in the production at all. And they said, okay, you have to do this small scene for us, you know, just to have you there. And so they did. And that kind of makes a lot of difference in the film, certainly for anyone under the age of 60, I guess, that hasn't been around to see the Beatles in action. So it's kind of like they were so forward thinking about the future of generations. It's really quite astonishing what they achieved in that film.
Yes, and of course, this was at a time when the Beatles were barely together. They were already.
Was it? It was the end of. Was it the end of the 70s? I think before that.
End of the 60s.
End of the 60s, right?
Yeah. So so is your but the songs, the Beatles songs are in the movie.
They're immaculate. They're.
So are you going to pick a Beatles song from the movie or from some other record?
Yeah, from the movie. There are so many, but let's go with. I mean, our favorite here at home is Lucy with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, but I will go with when I will be 64.
Okay, which I was a few years ago.
Yeah,
And you will be someday.
yeah.
So you will sing and I will do the mime.
No, I won't sing. I don't know the words by heart.
Well, I'll help you.
You can put on, if you have some kind of karaoke machine, then go for that.
When I get older, losing my hair, many years from now, will you still be standing at the fireside? Sunday morning, go for a ride.
Not Bottle of Wine? Oh, maybe that's the second verse.
I have no idea. My favorite Beatles song, I know the words.
Which one?
Are you interviewing me now?
Yeah, which one?
Here, There, and Everywhere.
Ah, okay. Okay, really? Why is that your favorite song?
Premshay, I'm interviewing you today.
It's never like that.
Oh,
Okay, so I have deep roots in music actually, and I studied music from when I was yay high, as well as theater. Most of my early memories are from being on stage or being afraid of stage, which also goes a long way throughout my career and moving between front and back of stages. I studied piano. After around the 6th grade, I kind of stopped for a while, and then I went back to it around 12th grade. And this time it was jazz piano. And I kept revolving around that for quite a bit of my life. So when I was older, losing my hair, I studied sound engineering, and I worked as a sound engineer in studios in Israel. And the second thing that always interested me was massage, actually, and complementary medicine. So I went to study that as well. And I traveled to India to study that as well, and came back. And then one night, it was the second Gulf War, where everything was hectic, as it is in Israel from time to time. Rarely it happens, but that was one of those times. And I got up in the middle of the night, and I said, and I got some pressure. At that time, I was about 24, maybe 25. And I got some pressure from the family about academic knowledge, academic schooling. And I got up and I said, biopsychology or psychobiology. Just woke up from a dream with those two words. I didn't even know if something like that existed. So I started checking online, and I found out that there was one bachelor's degree in the Hebrew University that was exactly that. And I went there and met with the head of the department. And while it was very interesting, I understood that it would be wasting a few years of my life to just get in, because I didn't come with a background like, majoring in physics and biology and high polymath, or that wasn't my background. Yeah,
you were in the theater.
I was in theater. I majored in history and in theater. Yeah, I was in a gifted children's center when I was growing up, and my class called me the black sheep because I was the only one that didn't major in physics and high math, or computers. But computers were always in the background, and at a gifted children's center, what you do is you have the chance as a 13 years old to go and splice DNA. And it's something that you don't even do when you're a biology major in college, right? So you kind of get all of these skills and knowledge bases without going through proper formal education. And that's only because you're highly intelligent and specifically highly curious. If anyone asks you or our audience, what is so special about gifted children? What is the common denominator? It's curiosity, not anything else. I mean, anything else is debatable. A very high curiosity level is the main thing.
Is it something that you can create in your children?
Depends on who you ask.
Or are kids
What,
born?
curiosity?
Is there a curious gene?
I think there is a curiosity potential when it goes with IQ. As I said, it's a common denominator. You can always build curiosity, just as you can build pretty much anything at a person, but the potential is different.
So we have IQ,
yeah,
and EQ,
yeah, and several other Q tips.
And Dov Moran, many other Q tips. That was good.
Yeah.
And Dov Moran likes adversity quotient, AQ.
Yeah.
And you've now invented the curiosity quotient, which is the CQ.
Yeah, but it's actually part of IQ. To be serious.
So together then they're the ICQ.
ICQ, exactly. Yeah, and we know what that is. Yeah.
Intelligence and curiosity quotient.
Yeah, and ICQ is definitely an EQ thing as well, right? A social messaging. It's actually all about EQ. So yeah, these are interesting dots to connect. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning phase. And
so did you go to university in the end? And
I went to university.
You studied woodworking or?
Yeah, that's another story. I mean, I was against university. I was against academic for a long time, and then came this thing that I told you about, and then I said, okay, let's get down from the tree that I just climbed on, and find something a little bit closer to home. And so I went to study a bachelor's degree in education, majoring in dance theater, or theater dance, as it is called actually. It was fascinating, but I love how you say it, because I completely identify, I was a misfish there as well, throughout my life, but there as well, for several reasons, but mostly because I decided after 1 year, and I fell in love with dance, and I fell in love with dance actually before that, because I had a girlfriend who was a dancer, and I fell in love with that. And I decided to pause my academic studies and go to study professional dance at what was then the most ambitious and demanding structure in Israel, which is a gaton, a kibbutz, where the contemporary dance company is in. And so you just leave everything, go live on a kibbutz up north in Western Galilee, and all you do for 8-10 hours a day is dance. So that really builds your body and your mind and your coordination and your personality structure, basically. So that was an amazing experience. And then I got back, as I said I will do, finished my degree. Yada, 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 many things happened. I moved into other fields as well. I made some productions in theater and dance, performed all over the world, initiated several organizations that had to do with art. And
1 second, Premshay. These productions, what was your role in them?
Director, choreographer, some as a performer, but I quickly moved from performance to directing.
Are these on
production
on YouTube,
producing.
and we can watch them later?
No, we don't have. I only have documentation of one of them, which is on my computer. No, we didn't.
And which you will share after this program.
Maybe I need to find it. No, I have a documentation from the show in New York. We were in a Fringe Festival in New York City and in Boston, and we documented it there. And it was a site-specific show, so it's in a bar. So that was a fun experience, and I did other things as well. There's one short dance film I made, and there are other productions with.
1 second. So you haven't been prime minister yet.
Not in this lifetime. I thought about being a politician when I was in the youth movement, and I understood that there are other things that are more interesting at times. Let's say that if I had the possibility,
we need somebody like you to be prime minister.
No, I would say that I would love being and love is a harsh word for that, but I would love being the minister of culture, or the Minister of Education, but mostly culture. I think that Ministry of Culture needs to have someone that really believes in that and understands the scope and responsibility, even when it's a very small budgeted office. And unfortunately, in our country, it's an office that almost no one wants to have.
Well, I will vote for you. Next election, Premshay for Minister of Culture.
I promise to listen to everyone.
Okay, so how did you get into high tech? I mean, everybody knows you as a ARVR high tech freak.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually I was always kind of, as I said, interacting with computers. Even during my bachelor's in dance theater, my end project, my cornerstone project was interactive art, interactive theater. So I always was in computers and visual computing and sensors and the likes. In 2012, I think it was, or 2013, I always keep forgetting, I was producing the Utopia Film Festival for Art, Science, and Imagination, and Future, of course. And what we did there was present to the public, for the first time, as far as I know, in Israel, we presented what was then the Oculus DK1, the first commercial VR helmet of this generation. A wonderful person named Yossi Preminger brought it in, and it was a long line of people standing and wanting to have a taste. And I fell in love with it. I immediately understood that we are basically on the verge, not on the verge, we are standing on the edge of that cliff known as a new era or new medium. I felt that we were in 1896. We were at the Edison labs, or after people already have gotten out a few films, and we're saying, wow, now we need to decide, are we pioneers of a medium or are we just film goers, which is fine.
So fast forward to 2020.
Yeah.
This quantum leap really never happened, or did?
Oh, it did. It did big time. It's really it's a complicated thing to.
I don't own one. I don't own one.
So there are many things that you do not personally own, but they are successful and they are around. One of the facts are that it's very hard to find people that haven't tasted VR, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's hard to find people that haven't tasted caviar.
No.
But
no, you'll find more people. You'll find more people that haven't tasted caviar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've all tried virtual reality.
We all use it.
It hasn't become a living room thing. We're still watching TV.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll always watch some form of TV. We'll just have it in a different form factor. If you're asking why it hasn't become that thing, there are many different reasons. The one that I find the most crucial, and for augmented reality more than virtual reality, is the form factor. We have a psychological barrier. If we think of the phone, can we see? No, we don't see it. If we think of a phone where we use augmented reality all the time through filters and our screens right now behind us, this phone is a compromise.
This is for people who don't know what a smartphone is.
Yeah, or any type of phone. That's actually, the mobile phone is the highest or harshest compromise we are willing to do in order to have technology and accessibility with us all the time. And by that I mean, we need it mobile, we need it light, we need it small, but we also need it in a way that we can hide it or put it aside for a second, and that it doesn't penetrate our social arena all the time. For augmented reality or virtual reality to kick in as the substitute for mobiles, it needs to be in a form factor that doesn't protrude our space. In terms of, I am looking at you. Google Glass was a brilliant demonstration of that. Google Glass was a phenomenal success. Phenomenal. And people think it was a failure. Why? Because they didn't sell enough. It had privacy concerns. it was creepy, but that was the point. Google Glass was out in order to check the water, not in order to become the mainstream. And there are other examples.
I'm sorry, that was good. That was very good. To check the water and the mainstream.
Yeah.
Two water metaphors in one sentence.
Thank you. But that because that was really the reasoning behind it, and it was a phenomenal success because they found out so many things, and then they could say, "Okay, back to the drawing board."
I want to tell you a secret. Every time that Google doesn't succeed, that's what they say. They say we were just testing the waters.
Yeah, but it wasn't just Google. It wasn't just Google. Do you know that before Pokemon Go, the same company, Niantic, made a different game? The same principle, a different game, more futuristic, less brandish. It was also a phenomenal success, but not the size of Pokemon Go. But they tested the waters, they saw what works and what not, and they were ready for prime time. And
so is Google working on something now that we don't know about?
Is there anyone that isn't working on something that we don't know about?
No, in this arena.
Yeah, Google never stopped working on it. Definitely. Everyone is interested in Apple, right? What Apple is working on, because Apple brings in the form factor, not the tech, not the unbelievable innovation, the form. And we are aesthetic species. I mean, aesthetics are very important for us.
Oh, I get it. So, okay, so I get it. So this is the Apple Oculus Rex.
Yeah, and naturally,
it will be transparent.
It will be in a way, but still, glasses. To be completely honest, my own opinion is that everything will be nice and dandy until we get, but so until we get neural interfaces, neural implants. That's the big revolution, because that's not a form factor that is problematic. It has lots of different problems and fears, but once we get it into our systems, then you have a different form factor that you can play with. Or, of course, the lenses, contact lenses, which are also being worked on for many years. So that's the big difference. Having this kind of goggles, nobody wants to go around with these things because it's uncomfortable, it's heavy, it's creepy, it's all of those things. It's a problem. It creates distance. And we're at the age of...
I never understood where the hype with the Oculus Rex was going. But the Google glasses disappointed me because they were not as obtrusive.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So I'm counting on you to give me a call in a year's time and say, Mel, boy, do I have the VR set for you. Come on over.
Oh, wait. I'm guessing that there will be others like Robert that will give you that call first. But yeah, it's definitely something that everyone in the field knows about and is playing around.
So today, this is your big love, AR, VR.
Well, I have many big loves. First of all, my wife and kids. Second is you and your books. That's a big thing in our house.
There you go, interviewing me again.
Yeah, and just complimenting. And third is I'm into AI, I'm into VR. I had an AI company, I had a VR company. I've been working with many content makers, and I'm still working on those kinds of projects. But education was and will stay with me forever. And I am trying to work more going back to education from a technological point of view right now. Yeah, because, Corona times.
Yeah, so let's go back to Premshay the Miss Fish.
Yeah.
Are you happy, Miss Fish? Are you happy, Miss Fish?
I'm happy being a Miss Fish. I'm not a happy Miss Fish. Does that make sense?
Only to Miss Fish.
Only to Miss Fish, yes.
Now, okay, so your parents had a hand in this, because anybody wanting to have a child who goes with the flow is going to name their child John or Bob or anything but Premshay.
Well, my parents didn't name me Premshay.
Exactly. So here, run with this.
Yeah. My parents named me Shai, which is a very nice name. but I didn't. My memories are that I didn't hear it that often, and I think that that has a lot of influence on someone, whether they hear their name or not. And
I don't understand. Your parents said to you, hey, you with the pacifier,
no,
come on
no,
over."
no, no. I'm not referring to just parents. My memories, my own psyche remembers the period. My first 20 years as not hearing the name being spoken by others a lot. I had friends, I had family, everything was okay. But for some reason, I don't remember being, named a lot, being called on a lot. And when people called me, they called me with a bunch of different nicknames. Yeah, I had nicknames, but not just saying shy. Yeah, it was other nicknames. And my friends from back then still call me by those nicknames, or by Premshay. They don't call me shy. So that kind of influenced me. But the real influence was when I went to India to study Ayurveda, and I went to Osho's ashram it was near Osho ashrams, and I knew that I would go there because it was already something, the meditations were already something I knew from here. And I had different experiences there, but I said, oh, I will never take a sannyasa name. I will never change my name. What is that? Coming from a very, down to earth roots Zionistic background, it seemed, Israeli, it seemed strange to change my name to a sannyasa name, which, come to think of it, is also silly because many people in Israel changed their names were changed. That's kind of a thing here. But at one point, because of several reasons, I decided I will take a sannyas. And for me, it was after realizing that a sannyas is a student, is a monk, basically, and a student, and it has a certain criteria and certain stage in Hinduism. But Osho, one of the things that he did was open it to anyone. And when I kind of started thinking what it means to me, I understood that it means it was for me a decision whether I was committing to life and to living life in its fullest or not, and basically between life and death. And once I decided to commit to life, I said, it would be good for me to take a sannyas that signifies that effort and that path and that commitment. And I settled on Premshay, which is one hand is the roots, it's Shai, which means gift in Hebrew. And the other is Prem, which is love in Sanskrit. And together it's gift of love, and it kind of reminds me what is really important in life. So every time that someone says Prem or Premshay, it reminds me where I am and what is important. It reminds them, even subconsciously, but it's there because the words are being said, and words has power. And later on, I just found out that it's a very nice icebreaker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that how you met your wife?
No. I met her through a common friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the Hermon is also not an original name.
That's true. Yeah. Hermon is a name that was changed several times until it got to be Hermon. Hermon is the snowy mountain of Israel up northeast. And it is a special name. There are other Hermons around, but it is a name that was handpicked by my father, and he gave me that as well.
And the original name of your
family? It goes back. It was Hebrewized before by my grandfather, and before that it was I think it was Hamel.
Hanim?
Hammer, like hammer.
Hammer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they say what's in a name, or at least Shakespeare said that.
Yeah.
You have a strong belief in names. So do you think that maybe, you've just given me an idea. I don't know whether it's a startup, but it's certainly worth asking. At the age of 20, maybe there should be a ceremony where people get to choose their names because, we're brought up given a name.
Yeah.
And that might not be us.
That's true. That's true. It's definitely an issue that I've come across a lot in my life, seeing other people, how they change, when they change their name. We know that there's a culture of changing, of adding letters, which goes back to religious beliefs. Basically, I guess that in every religion, we just see it here in Judaism a lot. Those are small differences that people make because of mystical beliefs, but also because of their own psychology, their own affirmations. I think that a name is something that people should be able to pick. On the other hand, it might be strange for people. I mean, we might not be able to anticipate how people will feel to have like a temporary name for 20 years. Like you're Mel for now, but it's temporary.
Well, you see, the whole problem with the internet is we need to follow me. Was Mel, now George. Was George, now Peter. But I'll tell you who I feel sorry for. I don't feel sorry for Melvin Rosenberg or Premshay Hermon. You know who I feel sorry for today?
Who?
John Smith with an I. If you're a recluse or an FBI agent, John Smith is a good name. But if you're out there, I mean, you have no life. So imagine a ceremony, a John Smith ceremony, where all the John Smiths can change their name to Bartholomew Cohen or whatever.
So maybe we all need to be born with John and Jane Smith?
I think we are, aren't we?
You think so?
Until we're a few days old, we're just he, her, or it. Or they.
Yeah.
As the case may be.
Yeah.
So you said, did you say that you chose life when you were in India?
Yeah.
Can I ask you what you mean by that statement?
Sure. Although it is, it feels a bit self-explanatory. It means for me, it wasn't, how do you say that? It's something that we need to think about and decide. It's not, we have an instinct of survival, but there's a difference between surviving and living. For us humans, that is. And there's also a difference between living and living your potential. And deciding to, cut into that and dive into that and really, getting out and smelling the passion, smelling the air for whatever comes. That's a decision. There are people that are born like that. I admire such people. I mean, it's amazing to watch. But there are people that, and I think that you and I are a bit like that, or were a bit like that. We needed to develop that. We needed to decide that this is what we commit to.
Yeah, it took me 40 years.
Okay.
Because I did not go to the ashram in India.
Maybe. But let's be honest. It's always good to get it as early as possible. But if you do it, it's fine either way, whenever it comes, because it may be better than the alternative. I mean, there are people that are extinguished from the get-go, that don't live, or they don't ask these questions, right?
And many of them become academics.
I don't know about that, because maybe, you see, my perspective on an academy is after I chose that, after I was against it and chose it. And I actually told my parents that if I go to the academy and like it, I mean, if I finish the first year, I'm going full on PhD. If I like it, I continue, but full strength. And the only reason, and I would have done it, and I would still intend to do it, I would have done it if I had the resources and the time and wasn't other pressing matters on the way. But I finished my master's a while back. Everyone is telling me to push for PhD, and it's only, hey, give me the time and money and I'll do it. Sure, I mean, it will be valuable. But, we have other things in our lives. I'm not a rich person. Yeah.
It's okay. I volunteer to be your PhD mentor.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, you do not sponsor my PhD.
I could sponsor your PhD.
Okay.
I could take all the money I'm losing it on our books and invest it in.
Yeah.
If you were to do a PhD, what would it be in? What was your master's in?
My master's was in interdisciplinary arts program in Tel Aviv University, and the thesis was in virtual reality as a performance medium. Actually, yeah, it was all about, the entire master's was about virtual reality. I chose my course as well to fit that, to create a paradigm and a theoretical framework for future work. And if we take it into practice, then my thesis built a way to analyze virtual reality artworks and to build virtual reality projects, to build experiences that has a community element, that build up communities, which is also, again, many people believe or feel that or think that virtual reality is a solitary experience, a solitary medium, and it's actually quite the contrary in my point of view. So my thesis was around how we create that.
Well, when I was young, I'm joking, I was never young, because I'm always young, but wasn't there this thing called Second Life?
Yes, and there is actually still. It's very active.
Now it's the 19th life because it's been...
Yeah. So Second Life is actually, and I write about that in my thesis as well.
But really?
Yeah.
So you see, I can be your PhD mentor.
Yeah.
We have to decide on something that interests me.
That's true.
Go ahead.
Second Life was interesting for many, many different reasons. But actually, the purpose of Second Life, the goal or the vision, was creating a virtual reality metaverse. They just didn't have, they said it out front, the founders. They just didn't have the world didn't have that machinery yet. And once it did, once Oculus started coming out, then the founders went out and built two of the most hyped virtual reality metaverses, High Fidelity and Sansar. So it was always the purpose. And it's still active. And unfortunately, for now, those two companies, the offsprings, made their own pivots because, as you mentioned earlier, it didn't go mainstream as projected, or not mainstream, but mass, a critical mass in order for it to be profitable enough for them to continue as companies and startups. So they pivoted to different aspects inside virtual reality. One is about sound, and one is about live performance, actually, music performances in virtual reality, which now during COVID-19, we see its proliferation a lot.
So, Premshay, we don't talk too much about the present, but let's talk about the future.
Yeah, let's.
When we get out of this mess, is VR going to be a big thing in our lives?
So let me stop you right there, because I don't think we are getting out of this mess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's here to stay. And COVID all the way, baby. It's a crisis.
Talk about an optimistic interview. Okay.
Yeah, no, for me, it's ultra optimistic.
Okay,
it's like,
shoot.
It's a kind of Deus Ex Machina.
It's what kind of sex?
Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina.
For our viewers who don't know what Deus Ex Machina means, it's an ancient term which is related mostly to theater, and that means that towards the end of a play, the Greek theater, there comes a Deus, a God that does something that changes everything and takes and allows a resolution to happen. Something that us humans cannot, if it was left to us humans, we would just make it a soap opera that never ends with all the different entanglements. So God steps in, brings his or hers lightning rod, or whatever needs to happen, or death and mayhem, and we can move on. Because if we take it back to us, it's a really traumatic experience, a crisis that makes us change our ways. And then, of course, we have the chorus that tells about it and reaffirms our beliefs and blah, 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 the entire theater, Greek theater structure. So that's the point of another lecture. But that principle is alive and well throughout the human society life. We've seen it countless times before, and COVID-19 is this kind of Deus Ex Machina in my point of view. Because we had pandemics before, we all know the stories, but if we take it out of that point of view and look at it as a social, global, or globalization era pandemic, this is our opportunity to change. This is also our no-go or no-go crisis. Like we had the global climate crisis, we still do. Nobody talks about it, right? But we had the global climate crisis coming into some kind of peak just a year or 2 years ago in terms of globalization phenomena. And then but we could still ignore it in a way. But we couldn't ignore, at least we chose not to ignore, as a human society, as a global society, we chose not to ignore COVID. We could have, but we didn't. So if you take in account all of the different conspiracy theories, or if you just take the high road, we chose not to ignore it and treat it as a change maker for the entire world, whether you're in Iran or in Israel or in the UK, with Brexit or without it, in the EU, in the US, in Guatemala, everyone is part of that fabric, like concrete. It's a concrete fabric, not a theoretical construct anymore. So that's a change maker. And that is here to stay, because everything, even if we go back to the old ways, it will always be compared to what happened during COVID.
So it'll be BC.
Exactly.
Before COVID.
Yeah. Or BCC. Yeah. So we will always have that as a waterfront. Waterfront? Do you say waterfront?
A watershed. It's a watershed. But
watershed. Watershed.
It's your program. You can say whatever.
Yeah, it's a watershed moment, and nothing will go back. And from looking at it from an optimistic point of view, it will also not go back to the way it was from the positive things. I mean, education will not go back to where it was ever again.
That might be a good thing. That might be a good thing.
Thank God Almighty, you will not find a single soul a single educational soul that will say that they wanted to go back. Nobody wants it to go back. The premise of education was, if you are in the education system and you are in the education system personally, everyone wants it to change. They're just, the regular, we're afraid of change. We don't know how to do it. It's a hard process. There are a lot of limitations or handicaps, but once someone forces you to do it, okay, so you're in it, you're under the water. Again, you have to learn how to swim once you're in the water. You cannot talk about it, how we will do it, and if I do it breast or fish or dog, and what will be the best way and the most efficient. No, you're in the water, swim, man, swim.
So Premshay, this world now is made for the misfish.
Yes, definitely.
And everybody's been swimming the wrong way, except us.
Maybe. I won't be so bold as to say that. I mean,
because I am.
You can. you're older and much more experienced than I do. You can say that.
It's my program too. So.
Yeah.
No, but you can also say things. So listen, we could go on for hours.
Yeah, we could.
And we have done. But maybe there's other people that want to. I don't know. What do people do when they're not watching us? The things that they do.
WhatsApp. WhatsApp. They do WhatsApp.
Okay, so WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
And what we didn't talk about, we'll talk about next time, is while we're talking, this Zoom is the VR that we have. So we didn't. Don't be angry with me.
No, I'm not angry at you.
We didn't get the 3D shit yet.
Okay, so next.
Hold on. But the 2D shit has changed the world. It enables, everything to be done differently.
Yeah. So Zoom, like the mobile, it's like the most common denominator. It's the least effective or least influential common denominator, which is, again, form factor. It's easy and stuff, but you can't really use it for a lot of things, right? As an educator or as a person, it's very limited. So maybe next time we will do this talk while I am in virtual reality.
Okay.
And you can be on Zoom and I will be inside virtual reality and I will show you some stuff that we can do, even while using Zoom, but mixing between one person in VR and one person in desktop in 2D mode.
Now you're talking. Where are you tomorrow?
Yeah, same place, same time.
No, you'll be in a virtual space.
Yeah.
So, Premshay, you are a remarkable young person. I have to thank.
You're also a remarkable young person.
Yeah, thank you. I have Yossi Vardi to thank for knowing you as well, along with so many other people. I have Irena Brodeski to thank for this background.
Which is a very nice one.
Yes, it's from one of the books.
Yeah.
Mainly, I have your parents to thank for bringing up such a wonderful guy. And what I should tell our guests, for those of you who don't know Premshay, is that in addition to being a genius and a polymath, he's one of the nicest people walking on the planet. And I don't say that to everybody.
That's an honor.
So take care. I'm going to phone you in 2 minutes because I want to continue our conversation, but I think we haven't overstayed our welcome.
We're just beginning, yeah.
We're becoming borderline. So Premshay, this has been remarkable. And you are the first interviewee that I'm inviting back in a week or two.
I'd be honored to.
Love you, kid.
Love you too.
Bye, everybody.